once you understand that there's no end to it in terms of ending results, because you'll always want more, you'll
Right.
kind of be greedy in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
you will mature and see that you have to fall in love even more with the process than the end
Mm-hmm.
goal. And that's what really allows you to enjoy every single day while you're building up towards those phenomenal results.
All right, welcome everyone to another wonderful episode of Let's Move Canada. We are your hosts, Dana and Luigi, with the Canadian Health and Fitness Institute. And on today's episode of Let's Move Canada podcast, we have Olympian Félix Dolci, well, more specifically, gymnast Félix Dolci. And he's here today to talk to us about what inspired him to pursue his path and what inspires him to stay healthy. But before we get into that, let's me just start by saying that today's podcast is brought to you by the Canadian Health and Fitness Institute, whose mission is to make Canada the fittest nation on earth by 2030. And to this end, of course, the podcast is aimed to raise awareness about physical and mental health. And now, of course, the moment you've all been waiting for, Félix Dolci. Félix, welcome, welcome. Félix is a true trailblazer in Canadian gymnastics. Félix has made history several times, from becoming the first Canadian to win a men's gymnastics medal at the Youth Olympic Games to securing gold at the Junior World Championships. He recently competed at the Paris 2024 Olympics, where he played a pivotal role in helping the Team Canada finish in 8th place in the men's team event. And he has also showcased his skills across multiple apparatus, including qualifying for the floor exercise in parallel bars. Fresh off his 5-medal performance at the Santiago 2023 Pan American Games, Felix is here to share his incredible journey and what's next for him as he set his sights to greater future. Felix, welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Such a warm welcome. Thank you.
Yes, we're so happy you're here. So our first question for you is, where did you grow up? And tell us about your family life. Did you have an active family? Did you have really active childhood?
Absolutely. So I grew up in Quebec, Canada, more specifically Laval, which is the city right beside Montreal. And I really grew up my whole life over there. And my family was very, very active at a young age. So my father was a hockey player in the past, and my mom was doing gymnastics and then fencing on a national team. So my family was definitely really into sport. And then, of course, I had to kind of follow the same path at a very young age. But got to be honest, I loved it, and I truly believe it's a wonderful thing to do. So
Fencing. Wow, that's different. That's really cool.
yeah.
Do you fence at all?
Actually, I never even tried fencing, to be truthfully honest with you, but I think it's definitely unique sport, right? Very more out there. But like I said, my mom dabbled into different sports, and I feel like, yeah, she definitely loved fencing. It was a passion of hers, and she was quite good. She was quite good. I don't know, maybe I would have done a decent fencing athlete, but I guess I ended up with a different sport. But she definitely gave me that passion for the sport in general, and the drive and motivation to perform. So yeah.
So you had very athletic parents,
Mm-hmm.
athlete
Yep.
parents. So were you were they at the gym every day, or what was that like?
So basically, growing up for me, I was very not pushed in a sense, but I was encouraged, right, to participate in multiple sport, such as more common sport, hockey, soccer, which I really liked, really enjoyed. I think it was very fun. But I needed something a little bit more. I was very,
Mm-hmm.
very excited growing up. I was jumping over the walls everywhere. And since my mother was doing, I had done gymnastics in the past, she said, okay, Felix, maybe you need a sport that's even more demanding, that really requires you to use all your energy. And I feel like also the fact that gymnastics was a not solo sport, but you could basically perform, by yourself, was something that really resonated with me at a young age, because I was super competitive, and I
Mm-hmm.
I, I kind of hated to lose, right? And in those more team sport, I felt like losing with the team was very difficult. And instead of having, being able to have the full control of my personal results, but that's exactly what I found in gymnastics, right? I had the faith of my results in between my hands, whether it was successful or not. That was kind of on me, and I could live better with it. And the combination of what gymnastics was providing me as, as a young athlete, jumping everywhere, flying in the sky, doing backflips, hanging on the bar was definitely something that I think got me really easily. So yeah.
Really, really cool. And so it sounds like what inspired you specifically is not just your parents, but really finding a sport that actually connects to you and just allows you to expand in the way that you need it to expand.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, to this day, I love practicing other sports, and I think it's a must, especially at a young age, to be able to know exactly where you sit, what do
Right.
you like to do, specifically, and even better if you can find a niche talent where you can really excel. I think that's awesome. But like you said, as soon as I started gymnastics, I was like, wow, this is super demanding, super competitive. That's what I need. That's exactly what I need. And then on top of that, the fact of gymnastics being very unique in its own way and not as known in terms of a sport. And I almost felt like a superhero, right? Doing gymnastics, like I can do backflips. That's crazy. I can do giants over a bar. Very unique skill set that like not everybody had. I felt like that was very cool at a young age. So it really resonated with me extremely quick.
And how old were you when you started gymnastics?
I started gymnastics at a very, beginner level, like recreative, around 5 years old.
Wow.
And then, yeah. So I was doing multiple sport at the same time, right? And at some point throughout my multiple sport careers, I had to choose a path, right? Because we only have 24 hours in a day. And I really love doing soccer. Was definitely one of my main sport that I love doing. And gymnastics was also in there. So I believe around the age of probably 9 to 10, break it even there, I had to kind of make a decision, right, in between which sport I wanted to pursue further, and it really fell into the gymnastics category at that time. So
when you finally decided you're going to do gymnastics at like the age of 9, what was your training schedule like at 9?
So usually what I used to do was I would be training from 1 to 5 p.m. Almost every single day, so 5 days a week. And along those lines, around the age of 12, we added another day in the weekend, which was Sunday at the time. So yeah, I mean, a lot of hours, quite young, but it's very known in the space of gymnastics that that's what it takes, right? That's what it takes to build a gymnast body and the gymnast awareness, I like to call. But for me, it was okay, right? For me, it was okay because I knew I was getting better every single day, and that's exactly what I wanted to. So it was definitely a win-win in my book. Of course, when you grow up, you understand even more of the now professional sport. You get to kind of make more of your schedule while you go, but doing a lot of training at a young age was something that I still love to do. So it didn't bother me.
I'm curious, what did you love about it? I mean, you've talked about being competitive. You've talked about being involved in different things. You talked about expending your energy, using them as avenues or outlets, right? To exercise your energy. What kept you going? I'm just so curious to know.
So really, there's definitely one aspect of it that really pushed me to keep going. Exactly like you said, it was that drive, that competitive drive to be the best. As simple as it is, I was always in that search of when's the next competition and how can I win? As simple as that, right? I used to have calendars, and that was at the age of 10, right? I used to have calendars with my next meet, my next competition on my door in my bedroom, and I would every single day, cross the day, and I could see the day getting closer and closer and closer, and that's all I wanted. That's all I was, looking up to do, right? Compete and winning, and being the best in the gym, doing all the sets. If the coaches were saying, okay, guys, it's 30 push-ups 5 times, I would want to go the extra mile and do it like 6 times or do it like 35 push-ups to show that I could be better than the rest, to show that I would be doing more. So
a ton of drive, a ton of ambition.
That intrinsic motivation came in strong.
Exactly. But that's what it takes. I feel in gymnastics, it's a very demanding sport physically and as well as mentally. So if you don't have that, very deep, I would say, desire, because it was deep and it was at a young age, it's tough to pursue on a higher levels. But I mean, I just had it, right? It was in me and I love what I did. So that's what kept me going. Because I got to be honest with you, there was definitely times where it was not as easy to show up every single day, but that drive made it completely different.
So that's the next question is tell us some of the challenges and difficulties you faced over your career.
Mm. There's definitely plenty, right? There's definitely a lot of them, but one of them would definitely be, consistency in the training since, as a young guy who was in the space of gymnastics at a very, very young age, life changes. You go to school, you're growing up, you become a teen, you go to high school, and then CJEP here in Quebec, and all those stages of life kind of changes your own schedule, your own perspective on, who you want to become as a person, what do you want to do in the future, and these things can also affect your sport career, obviously. And I think having to kind of go around this and discovering and growing in that space while having that passion for gymnastics was definitely not always easy because I always loved my sport. There's never a moment where I was like, I kind of falling out of love with it, but it's more so being able to match schedules with the fact of, okay, I want to train as much as I can. And then I have to go to school also. And, what about like a social life in between? And these are things that you kind of have to dabble into, make some mistakes and understand what you really want in order for you to take the best possible decisions out of it. I think that was definitely one. But now reflecting on my senior career, being at the Olympics, seeing many cycles, I think the fact that we oftentimes strives for Olympic cycles, and especially in gymnastics, the code of point will be changing every 4 years. So sometimes athletes, specifically in gymnastics, we feel like we kind of hit certain plateaus in terms of development and skill set. And when that happens, it's like you hit a wall, right? You hit a wall and you're like, okay, I kind of have to reinvent myself now if I want to aim higher for higher results and at the higher level. So it's always kind of a small setback, and then you really have to sit down, analyze the code, analyze your skill set to see where you want to grow in the space for the next 4 years. And I think these are definitely challenges that every single athlete go through that are very pivotal, I would say, but again, very character building at the same time. So they can be definitely positive in the end.
And something I think you've touched on. I mean, throughout, I've just kept wondering. It sounds like you have the drive. Sounds like you're putting in the work. You talked about going through the different stages of life, not just in terms of school, but in terms of your career, in continuously finding yourself and finding what you like and pushing through it. What has your mental health been like throughout all of this? Because when we talk about stages of life, when we talk about maintaining ourselves, right? Like I'm always thinking. It takes, depending on how busy you are, right, or what you're going after, it could take a lot to keep that balance, right? Not just with your activities, but also mentally. So how do you find, is mental health something you think about at all? Is that something that you have to be proactive about? Like, tell us about that.
Absolutely. I am very lucky to say that I think first of all, having the good surrounding, which means, having a good family, good friends, is something that can be so crucial for an athlete growing up in the space on a mental level, number one. And I was very lucky to say that I had that. My father specifically was very good at teaching me the right values and a right perspective on high performance in the sport, and really motivated me to push through any and every hardship I had throughout my career. But then also, I was also very lucky to work with, mental prep and people that work in that space, specifically with athletes for your mental preparation before competitions or even an off season or training camp season, to be actually able to have all the tools necessary in order for you to deal with the ups and the downs, because both of them can be tricky at that point. And I feel like that kind of allowed me to really ride the wave in a certain way. Because like you said, it is part of it fundamentally for every single athlete from a very young age also. But yeah, I first of all, I think having the right people around me was definitely a game changer. I'm very lucky for that. But of course, it wasn't always easy, but having that, like I said earlier, a very, very motivated mind and being extremely driven was, I feel like when you have that fire in you, you will hit some walls, you will go across a lot of issues and challenges and tribulations, but when the fire's burning, the fire's burning, and you'll push through somehow. So I feel like I had many tools with me to help me throughout all the ups and downs, and that's why I kind of made it out of it. But again, that's still to this day something I have to deal with it on a daily basis. But once you're kind of within the game already, you got that experience, you got those tools, it's much easier for sure.
Right. I love that.
Yeah, that's a lot of resilience and to keep going when you're probably exhausted sometimes, right? A lot of the time.
Absolutely.
With
absolutely
school work and balancing everything. Yeah, that's a ton. But that's why you're here, right? That's why you are where you are. So what are some of the most exciting times in your career?
One of the most exciting, I had a lot of times, even recently, that was very exciting in my career. But maybe to pick up from the start, I think for me, I had very fun time. I would say performing for the first time internationally was big for me. Right, it was like every single time in my career that I had reached a stepping stone, I was sitting there, even though I was, a very ambitious guy and confident in myself from the get-go, and even generally in life. I don't really need to be very, very talented or very, very good at something to believe that I can make it happen. So I kind of had that in me, but every single time I could hit a stepping stone in terms of, okay, this is my first international competition and I win it. Wow. Okay. I know I can do it. I can do it. Right. When I won my first World Cup gold medal, I was like, there you go. There you go. We're getting there. We're getting there at a young age also. And every stepping stone is like something that just not necessarily reassures you, but confirms my thoughts and my work and the work ethic, the strategic behind it. Everything is like, okay, I know I'm working on the right direction with the right path, with the right people. We're having some positive results. Not every time, of course, but once you hit it, especially when you go throughout difficult phases and you finally end up getting your ultimate goal, or, slowly hatching away at that dream, that's really when you have that confirmation. You're like, okay, I'm on the right path. I'm on the right directions. And these are very motivating for anybody.
Right. So it's like telling you you're on the right track, and then you can set even another goal, right? Because you made that goal, now you can set something even higher.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I'm the type of guy who would say, but I feel like that's very common amongst especially athletes, right? You will hit a goal. Let's say, okay, I want to be number one in Canada, huge goal. And once you will hit that goal, I was like, okay, I'm satisfied for about a day or two, and then I'll be like, I'll be like, okay, now listen, we got to win a World Cup, right? And then once that's done, you'll be okay. Wow, that's crazy, phenomenal. You get that rush of adrenaline, peak of dopamine, and then you're like, what's the next thing? Right? It's kind of like a drug in a certain sense, right?
Right.
And then that's what pushes you, really.
So it's that you might as well mindset, right? Like you're already going in that direction. You're already passionate. You already like it. You might as well just go for the next thing.
You're like, I did this, so I can do something even greater, right?
Exactly. The truth. Yeah, the truth of it is, sometimes I say this to other athletes that look up to higher stages and going internationally and performing in those big competitions. I say, if you really love what you do and you fall in love with the game, you'll understand that there's no end to it in a sense. And once you understand that there's no end to it in terms of ending results, because you'll always want more, you'll kind of be greedy in that sense, you will mature and see that you have to fall in love even more with the process than the end goal. And that's what really allows you to enjoy every single day while you're building up towards those phenomenal results. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. I mean, it sounds like you really are loving the journey in itself. It's not just about the destination. The destination is you have multiple destinations. There are more milestones, right? Than just enjoyable moments. So I think one of the journeys that both Dana and I are really curious about is your journey to Paris, to the 2024 Olympics. Can you tell us about that journey?
Absolutely. The journey was long. But for sure, I mean, for me, it was always my dream, right, to make it to the Olympics. Like many athletes, I always wanted to make it at those legendary games, right? And so having the chance to be at the Youth Olympic Games for me was definitely like a first taste of it when I was
Mm-hmm.
about 16, 17. And so I would say 4 years prior to the games, I vividly remember me, my coach, my teammates sitting down and making a very specific and strategic plan in order for us to qualify the team to the Olympics, which wasn't
Wow.
been done for like, I think it was 2009, right?
Oh, wow.
And we've been trying and trying and trying, and it was without any success. And for me, that was my first year because at that time I turned senior. I was 18 plus, so it was the first time for me where I was actually able to support my country in order to qualify for the Olympics. So I was very engaged into that plan of ours to be there as a team instead of having
Mm-hmm.
one individual perform, because it's definitely a game changer as an athlete, you know, performing in front of 30,000 people alone instead of having a team surrounding you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so 4 years before the games, we sat down, we made a plan. We said, okay, these are the scores we need. These are the start value we need. We want to be this and this in this country. In 2 years from now, we need to be at this pinpoint in terms of score. And in 1 year prior to the games, which where the qualification would happen, we need to make it into the top 12, right? To be qualified
Wow.
in team. And that's where it all started, right? That's where it all started for me and for the team, very, very specifically looking to achieve that goal. And so there was some ups and downs, multiple other competitions. And, you know, like I said previously, when I talk about the journey, is that making it to the Olympics was the ultimate goal. But I didn't become an Olympian at the Olympics, right? I became an Olympian every step of the way throughout those 4 years when I was working to qualify a team and to show up at these games. And so I would say, you know, 1 year prior to the games, showing up at those world championships in Belgium, Antwerp, was definitely one of the most stressful moments in my whole life. You know, we were competing in the first subdivision in the morning. I remember waking up at like, God, 5 a.m., 4:50, something like that. We were competing pretty early. We needed to be in the training hall at like 8 something. And I'm the type of gymnast that likes to wake up quite early before I start
Mm-hmm.
going on the event so I can get my body moving. And so yeah, it was one hell of a day in terms of the results, what we've done as a team. You know, we finished fourth in the world, which was
That is
unbelievable,
amazing. Amazing.
unbelievable.
My gosh.
And you know, I'm not very an emotional guy, not only in sport, but just in general. I'm not that guy specifically. But you know, when I looked at the scoreboard after all the events, and I saw the score that we specifically wanted to achieve 4 years
Wow.
ago that was onto that scoreboard, I couldn't hold it back. You know, like tears were
Amazing.
going off. All the
Oh,
guys were
yeah.
hugging each other. You know, it was just talking about it. Even now, it gives me kind of goosebumps. You know, so it
Chills.
was
I'm getting
definitely
goosebumps.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
this is
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
wow.
so exciting.
Yeah,
Right?
So
it
that's
was
such a good
really
feeling.
something, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, we were on cloud nine, of course, and we came back to the country. Like we did it. It's wonderful. We will be going to the Olympics as a team. And then now the second quest was starting, which was getting ready for the games, right? Getting
Mm-hmm.
ready for those big games, because it's nice to be able to show up there, but let's show up in shape and let's perform as best as we can. And that was definitely my mentality, right? As soon as those qualifications were done, I was like, all right,
Right.
wonderful. Now I want to go make a medal, right? Like that hasn't been done also in years. This is such a big, you know, challenge and such a crazy goal. I want to go and do it. And then we started the training. We used to train, you know, I used to train twice a day, every single day from 9 to 2 and something like 3:30 to 6, and then physio 7 to 8, and then, you know, recovery and all that. So I was training every single day, all day, basically. My day off was on Sundays, but I would do like, you know, cardio. I would lift
Mm-hmm.
weights. I would still train in other
Your day off,
sort of ways.
still lifting weights.
The day, yeah, exactly. I was just not
Funny.
in the gym with the boys. I
Right.
was doing it by
Right.
myself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was definitely something, one hell of a build up. And it was a challenging one, to be honest, because physically, my whole way through my prep, I was struggling with a bunch of physical struggles. You know, my ankle, I was coming back from a quite major ankle injury. And then because of my ankle injury, I kind of kept pushing because I wanted to prep. Then I kind of counterbalanced on my left knee. So I started having knee problems, and then
Oh,
it kind of spread it all over the
yeah,
body. But
yeah.
being a gymnast, we know it's like, there's a nice saying, and it goes, if you're doing gymnastics and you're not in pain, you're not doing gymnastics well, right? So,
So it is
truly,
true.
and I truly rock with that because it's true. It's true. So, you roll with the ball, you roll with the show. It's a professional sport. You have to push through. It's extreme in a certain way, and that was the mentality. I mean, come on, I was like, with 10 months prior to the games, like I have to keep doing it, right? Like
Uh-huh.
there's no holding back anymore. And that's what I did all the way up to the games, where several training camps, training every single day with the boys, with the national coaches,
Mm-hmm.
with all the other coaches, medical staff, and everybody was there day in and day out, putting everything they could on the line so we would show in Paris and make the best showing possible. And, even in Paris, the battle kept on going. Other stuff happened. You might have seen it, like the hand, the grip, my ankle again, and then my right knee this time again. Like a piece of cartilage went off, and whatever, minor
Oh,
concussion, whatever, a bunch of stuff.
God.
But for me, I was like, damn, it just adds on to the story. I was like, that's crazy, right? But
Wow.
I didn't necessarily feel like I was losing motivation in any way. I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, okay, life really wants to challenge me. Let's play, let's play, let's keep
That's
pushing
a
because I'm
great
that guy.
attitude to
That's
have.
an amazing,
Wow.
right? It's an
Like,
But
amazing attitude.
yeah, yeah. But it's like, it was my dream, right? It was my dream since I was
Yeah.
10. So it's like,
yeah.
listen, if I have two legs, if I have two arms, I can walk and breathe. It's fair game. I'll go on these events and give it all I have, no matter
Wow.
what. And that's really
Really
the main
cool.
mindset and mentality I went with. And in the end, I definitely pull a lot. And when I say a lot of positive from these games, very motivated for what's coming up next. But at the same time, if I would be honest, did I wanted more out of these games? Of course, of course. But I feel like I've grown as an individual and as an athlete more than I could have, asked for. So
You represented Canada in the Olympics in Paris. It's amazing, right? It's
No,
just,
it's
it's
I appreciate it.
really, really
unbelievable.
cool.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
in a good way, it's amazing. It's incredible. Um,
Thank you.
what would you, I wasn't going to ask this question before, but I'm just thinking about it. What advice would you give to children who want to be professional athletes?
Mm. Honestly, I have so many. But the one I would give, the first one, the main one I would give would say, just do it with love, do it with passion. Because I don't know anybody in the space of sports. And when I say sports, I'm not only talking about gymnastics. I don't know anybody in any sports that is on a professional level or a very high level in what they're doing, and they don't love something about it. There's not anything that doesn't make them wake up in the morning and they think about. Me, gymnastics. These past 2 years before the games, I would wake up in the morning and think about my routine. I would go to bed and think about my routine. I could not think about it, right?
Mhm.
And I feel like when you love what you do, and that's so true, and it's true for sport, it's true for work, it's true for studies and everything. When you love what you do with a fundamental passion, the hardships will be much easier, right? The hardship will be much easier because you have a purpose behind it. You know why you're doing it. And that's one of the things also, when younger athletes come up to me and say, Felix, I'm unmotivated. I'm not sure where I'm going.
mhm.
Simple as that. Just remind yourself why you started, remind yourself why you started. And most of the time is because you loved it, right? You had a passion for it.
Mhm.
And that's what you have to go for mainly, I
To do
believe.
something you love and work very, very, very hard.
Yeah. As my,
Cool.
as cliche as it may sound, I believe that's what makes the difference. For me, winning was what I loved the most. I loved winning. Training and winning was wonderful for me.
Uh-huh.
Knowing that I could push myself and be better than I was yesterday was my obsession, literally. So that's what kept me going.
It sounds like a big lesson
Hmm.
in what you've just said. It's just keeping yourself accountable, right? I think earlier as you were talking, when you were telling, the story about how like 4 years ago you guys were super specific about what you wanted and to look at the scoreboard to see that. I think that's a testament to one, writing things down, two, going for it, and three, like just keeping yourself accountable throughout. And of course, make sure you're continuously passionate. You check in with yourself. You keep yourself accountable. You check in with yourself. But you also keep yourself accountable in the actions. Like don't play yourself. Essentially, don't do anything against
Absolutely,
yourself.
absolutely, and that's so true because I believe sport as a whole is one of the best school of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say this is because you will learn so many life lessons, even though if you don't go, at the Olympics in your sport or you don't rise to the best of the levels, as a person in your next career and your next life, you will be so much better because you're going to learn so much throughout pushing yourself every single day, being accountable, respecting what you said you will going to do, right? Because at the end of the day, you're doing it for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe that. So yeah.
Yeah, to all of our listeners out there, listen, you've heard it from Felix, okay? Like, you don't have to be an Olympian. Just get out
Exactly.
there, do what you do, and then you'll be better for it. So again, really, really loving the lessons here, loving the messages here. Fantastic. So with all of this, I think we probably have just two more questions for you. I think the first one for me is, uh, actually, I think one thing I'm curious about is your diet. Like, what does
Okay.
your diet look like? Right, I would imagine to
Uh-huh.
have this much energy to keep pushing. What has your dietary regimen look like, even within the
you
Olympics, right?
you would be very surprised, I believe. But number one, I think when it comes to that specific topic, it's a little bit different for I'm going to say not everybody, but specifically every athletes. Because I
Okay.
feel like I eat a certain way because I am very specific and because of the training and the performances, and it fluctuate depending on the schedule and when I compete, when I train, and all that stuff. But to put it in a simple way, I would say when I compete, which is usually year round, there's no such thing as like off season that much in gymnastics. For some athlete, yes. For me, since I'm doing a lot of work also in Europe with the Euro leagues, even when I'm done competing for the country or for the province or stuff like that, I still go compete abroad.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes for me competing basically a year long. But when it comes to nutrition, it's very important for high level athletes to understand, number one, their needs when it comes to, like you said, energy. If they had to hit a specific body weight, for me, this is very true. For other athletes, that might not be true. Some gymnasts specifically don't necessarily need to be 144 pounds the day of the performance to
Mm-hmm.
feel their best. For me, I know I have my kind of range of I call it the weight performance, where when I sit in that range, I know I'm most likely going to be in my best possible shape to feel light on the event, as well as
Mm.
feeling strong and having just that enough energy to perform. And at the end of the day, I will be out. I will be out of energy, but just enough so I can complete the competition in the best possible ways. So when it comes to nutrition, for me, when I compete, I usually drop a lot of my calorie intake to a point where I will be slightly in a calorie deficit,
Mm.
and I will still remain. I don't cut carbs, I don't cut protein. I'm not very. I won't necessarily cut off sources of nutrition in my daily habits, but I will reduce the amount significantly. And that's why I've been working for many, many years, and it's been very successful for me. But that's
Wow.
something that I really, put a point to, because I don't want necessarily people out there to copy the way I eat, because I feel that I've seen very successful athlete with so many different body types do it so differently from each other, and they're all very successful at it. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
So it's like, to some people are like, I want to have, let's say, your exact shape or like that body type, and then I want to copy exactly what you do or what you eat. But the reality is that our lives might be so different in terms of
Right.
calorie intake and calorie deficit, what you're doing this every single day, how you train, and why you do it. Right? That's also the main reason. I do it because I have to perform on like Tuesday at 12 p.m. Right? So everything is kind of arranged for me to hit that specific body weight and to feel light, to feel good, just enough energy to perform. And at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, I will be out completely, to be honest with you. And that's not necessarily something you can maintain for too long, because it definitely becomes somewhat unhealthy.
Right.
Wonderful message. I like that.
Okay, so our last question for you, it has nothing to do with being an athlete.
All
We're just
right.
wondering, what are some of your hobbies outside of gymnastics?
Okay. Um, I might be a little boring on this one, but that
Well, you're
might
in the
that might
gym all the
show
time, so
that's the thing. That might show just even more the reality behind being, a professional athlete is that I've made an interview not too long ago saying that in most of my life, I had to kind of let things aside to put all my energy on gymnastics because that's what I wanted the most, right? And again, I'm not saying that's what people need to be doing to be successful in their spheres, but for me, I guess I'm extreme like that in some kind of ways where if I would to put more time into, let's say, playing music, let's say like that, I would be losing that opportunity to put it on gymnastics,
right.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I've always maximized as least as much as I could, training and being in the gym and getting ready for training and getting ready for tomorrow training and stuff like that. I'm not saying I've never done anything else, of course. I love other stuff that are completely different and outside of gymnastics, but these are things I can only really get to experience when I'm kind of not off season, but I'm
Right.
on a cool down or I have some time aside, which is quite rare to be honest. But
Gotcha.
I'm a super social guy. I love a bunch of things about the Quebec culture. Food, big food guy. I love
Routine.
music too. I love fashion. But these are all things that I feel that I could be so much more into, but that I rather put my time in all that training stuff, right? If that makes any sense. But I mean, that's more so on a personal, life decision. But that's not necessarily that it will never change. It's more so because I really like what I do, and I feel like if I am not doing 110% to maximize my goals and ambition in that specific sphere, somebody else in the world will do it and
Right.
will beat me in the end, right? Because he
Right.
sacrificed a little bit more. So
Right. And
yeah,
that's why you're the best. So
Right. I mean,
you got to be even better. Got to be even better.
well, in this case, right? I think maybe to wrap up, right? I know that was supposed to be the last question. I guess then a better question is, what does the future hold then? Well, what is the one next big thing that you think you might be working on? And I think we could leave it there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's a great question. Actually, I'll kind of link that one to the previous one. So, throughout the last 2 years, I've experienced, a lot of training, a lot of competitions, but I also had the time and the opportunity, the chance to share some of my personal knowledge and some of my personal experience at being a, Team Canada athletes and competing internationally on social media, and that's now something that I want to take up even more while sharing my passion of the sport, because number one, I believe gymnastics is a crucially underrated sport in this world, and especially in Canada and Quebec. And I would love for younger guys and younger girls surely to discover gymnastics, because I mean, I feel like it gave me a world of opportunities and I could never be thankful enough for that. But I would love to see more people in Canada appreciating the sport but also taking part into it. I definitely believe, through social media, I can make a difference and impacting the sport in a positive way. So that would be more into a not specifically what I do in the gym and what would be holding for me in the future, but then looking at more a career perspective wise with gymnastics. Of course, I'll be slowly working towards my next championships, world championships. And listen, like I said, when I was very young, my dream was to be an Olympian, and now I'm 22 years old and I have new dreams, right? I want to be a world champion and an Olympic medalist. So you will see me in the near future back on an international stage representing the country for sure.
well, we're excited to follow your
Looking
journey.
forward.
This is exciting.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so
Amazing.
much.
Oh, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and just, not only sharing your thoughts, but sharing your journey, sharing just who you are. Thank you so much for being you and doing all the things that you do.
Absolutely, absolutely, my pleasure. Listen, I believe that sport is the best thing, the youth can have. So if I can help one person out, then for me, that's definitely a win. So yeah.
And with that, we also want to thank everyone who tuned into this episode to listen to Felix. If you want to learn more about Felix, feel free to follow him on Instagram at Félix Dolci. That is FelixDolci, or on TikTok at Félix Dolci 5. So FelixDolci 5. And of course, if you want to learn more about this podcast, if you want to suggest someone, if you want to know more updates, don't forget to follow us at Let's Move Canada on Instagram, and head over to our website at chfi.fit to learn more about our mission. And yeah, stay tuned for next episode announcements. And that is all for us, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.